Okay, I have a great Chanukah story for you that took place on Hanukkah 2,000 years ago, and it has my friends here at the camels. In this story are the camels, the camel driver, a store owner, and Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim. Are you ready for this story? This is an incredible, incredible story. Okay, there is something in Israel called a shuk. A shuk is where you have a lot of outdoor stores and there's streets in between the stores. And there's all types of stores. In this story, we're going to talk about two different types of stores. One is sort of like a restaurant where they cook food and sell it to people who are hungry. And the second type of store is something that's sold something called flax. Flax grows from the ground and you can eat flax. People make drinks from flax. They eat seeds, and flax is also something that you can make paper with and clothes with, all different types of things. Everyone likes flax. And people that grew flax would put flax on their camels, like here on the hump, and then they would sit on top of the flax. They would ride their camels into the shuk, up to the flax store, take their flax off, sell it to the owners of the store, and then the owners of the store would sell the flax to other people. Okay, now watch what happens in our story. In our story, a driver, let's call him Yossi. Yossi, the camel driver, is on top of the camel with his flax, and he's riding it to the shuk, and it's on Hanukkah, so he has to get there early. And he goes early to the shuk, and as he's driving into the shuk, Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim are sitting on the side. And as he gets closer, as Yosef gets closer to the shuk, the camel smells the different foods, especially from one of the owners of the stores. And he smells the food, and the camel decides to go for the food, not to the flax store. Well, Yossi, the camel driver, knows the camel's going to do this, and he pulls the reins, the ropes that make the camel go one way or the other, and he pulls it to stop the camel. The camel's not having it. He's really hungry, and he goes for the store. The store owner sees this, and he says, no, don't let your camel come close. Well, the camel's not listening to the store owner. He's not listening to Yossi. Yehuda and the Chachamim are watching this and saying, oh no, and the camel goes into the store right up to the pot. But as it gets close to the pot, the flax on the side of the camel hits the stove where there's a fire and the food is cooking, and the flax lights on fire. This scares the camel because now there's a fire on the camel's back. He starts running all around. The fire spreads throughout the whole store, burns the store, all the flax. Yossi says, oh no, pulls his camel out of the store, and the store owner is screaming at Yossi, how could you let your camel come in here? And Yossi says, how could you have a fire like that? Whew, they're yelling and screaming at each other, you have to pay, no, you have to pay. And they turn to Yehuda and the Chachamim and they say to Yossi, the camel driver, look, you should have made sure your camel didn't go into the store. That's your fault. You have to pay for the store and the food and everything else, all the damage that you caused. Well, Yossi wasn't happy, but he said, what am I going to do? So he goes with his camel back to his fields to get more flax to sell to the store in the shuk that sells the flax. Meanwhile, the store owner with the food says, I'm not going to waste my whole day. I'm going to take my stove outside, light it outside, and cook the food outside in the street. Chacham and Rabbi Yehuda are sitting there and thinking maybe this isn't such a good idea to cook the food outside, but what are they going to do? Yossi comes back with his camel, full of flax, and the camel smells the food cooking. He didn't get to eat the first time. He got scared, and now he really wants to eat. So he's coming down. He sees the food's out on the street now. It's so much easier. And Yossi pulls on the reins, and the camel and the owner of the store says, no, not again. And the camel goes right for the pot. And Yossi reins in, but can't stop the camel. And as the camel goes right for the pot, the flax catches fire again from the stove and burns up, and the camel starts going crazy. By the time Yossi gets the fire out, all his flax is burnt. The food is spilled everywhere, and the store owner is furious. You did it again. You couldn't control your camel. This time, Yossi's not listening. He says, what? You had the fire out on the street. How can I know there's going to be a fire on the street? So again, they turn to Rabbi Yehuda, and they turn to the Chachamim, and they say, Rabbi Yehuda, Chachamim, who's responsible? Who has to pay for this? This time, Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim turn to the owner of the restaurant, and they say, look, you put a fire out on the street. How is Yossi, the camel driver, supposed to know there was going to be you can't do that. You have to pay for the flax this time. So the store owner takes out the money that Yossi gave him last time, pays him for the flax. Yossi says, that's it. I'm not wasting my time. I'm going to run back to my field before the day is over and I have to light Hanukkah candles and bring back some flax to sell. The store owner says, that's it. I'm done. I'm not selling any more food today. No way. I'm just going to light my menorah right here, and that's going to be it. Now, in Eretz Yisrael, they light the menorah outside on the street. So he sets up his menorah out on the street. It's the 5th night of Hanukkah. He lights his shamish and then 5 candles. He says the brachos. He sings Hanera Salalu. And as he's singing Mo Asur, guess who he sees coming down the street? Yossi and his camel full of flax again. Now the camel's looking around. He knows there's food, but the last 2 times he didn't get food, and now he's really hungry. So he's looking around for the food, He gets to the menorah, sees the fire, remembers there's always fire, there's food, leans down to look for the food, doesn't see any, but the flax hits the menorah, and it burns up on fire. And now all the flax is on fire as, oh no, and the store owner's screaming, my menorah, and Yossi's screaming, my flax. And the camel's going all around because he's on fire. So they finally put out the fire. All the flax is burnt. And Yossi says to the store owner, you put a fire out on the street. How could you do that? He says, my menorah. So they turn to Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim. And the Chachamim say, look, you had a fire out on the street again. We told you not to do that. You have to pay. And Rabbi Yehuda says, whoa, not so fast. He was doing a mitzvah. He was lighting a menorah. He doesn't have to pay if he's doing a mitzvah. The Chacham say, what? And now Yehuda and the Chacham are arguing back and forth. He has to pay, he doesn't have to pay. Back and forth. It's a mitzvah. It doesn't matter if it's a mitzvah. He's responsible. Back and forth. They're yelling. Finally, they decide to take a vote. All the Chachamim vote that since he put a fire on the street, the store owner has to pay. And Yehuda says, nope, since the store owner is doing a mitzvah, he doesn't have to pay. And they take a vote, and the Chachamim won the vote. So that means that the store owner has to pay because he put out a fire on the street. What's the lesson for us all? The lesson for us all is if we have a pet, we have to be very careful to make sure it doesn't hurt anybody. If we put anything out on the street, we have to make sure to be very careful with it. And we have to make sure that if we're on the beach or something and we dig a hole in the ground and it's time to leave, we have to cover that hole up. Or if we put something out on the sidewalk, we have to bring it in when we're done to make sure that we don't hurt anybody or cause anybody to get hurt. What a wonderful story for Chanukah. That comes straight from the Mishna. Chanukah Sameach.